So the U.S. shot down a car-sized unidentified flying object. That's a UFO. Apparently, it was above Alaska. This is a story from Reuters. I chose Reuters for this. Reuters has a history of having less spin, although in recent years, especially since Donald Trump, he pretty much broke the media, and they're all biased no matter what. So this is from Reuters. A U.S. F-22 fighter jet on Friday shot down an unidentified flying object, a UFO, over Alaska. U.S. officials said less than a week after the military brought down a Chinese balloon that had flown across the United States. See, I like how they don't call it a Chinese spy balloon here, because that is the American characterization. China says it's not. I don't know what it was, and you don't know what the payload is in there. They didn't really say anything, and conveniently it just sunk in the water. I don't know if they recovered anything from it. They said they didn't want to shoot it down because they were scared that debris would fall and damage homes or something in Montana, and it was a much larger one. I think they said the size of 3 buses. This one apparently was the size of a small car, and I guess they were not worried about the debris this time. They used a Sidewinder missile to down this craft. Quote, "We don't know who owns this object," said White House spokesperson John Kirby, adding that it was unclear where it began its flight. And the United States has satellites all over the globe, so I'm being skeptical. It seems like they might not want to tell us everything. They probably know exactly where that thing came from. President Joe Biden ordered the shoot down, which was announced from the White House. He also ordered the shoot down of the quote-unquote Chinese spy balloon, and the Pentagon overruled him and said, no, they overruled the commander-in-chief and said, we're not going to do it. Too much debris. This time they listened to old Joe. He's not really running things right. He's just a puppet. So on February 4th, another U.S. F-22 fighter jet brought down what the U.S. government called a Chinese surveillance balloon off the coast of South Carolina following its week-long journey across the United States and portions of Canada. China's government says it was a civilian research vessel. Some lawmakers criticized the president for not shooting down the Chinese balloon sooner. The U.S. military had recommended waiting until it was over the ocean out of fear of injuries from falling debris. I've listened to a lot of, commentary on this, and, some people have said, I'm going to actually mention Dan Bongino is... he's going to a Joe Biden quote about it where he says, well, China knows what the deal is, man. And Dan Bongino says it's a story because it's not a story. Basically, this kind of thing happens all the time, and we let China get away with it, and it just so happened to be, oh, boom, we caught it. And, they also said this happened during Trump's administration. Now, it was a bunch of off-the-record, anonymous people who were given this information that apparently these balloons happened. This was how the story went, and it was really bizarre. So some anonymous people came out and told the press this happened 3 times under Trump. Trump's officials came out and said, no, it didn't. That's a lie. And the Trump officials actually put their name on the line. So they were not anonymous. And they said, no, it didn't happen. And then I believe it was Milley. Was it Mark Milley? One guy came out and said, oh, actually it happened. We just didn't tell the president. And I'm like, dude, that's treason, right? You don't tell the commander-in-chief. And then later on they said, well, actually we just didn't know until now. So this one balloon apparently caught the Pentagon. It got their antennas going up, and they looked back through the history, and they said, oh, yeah, okay, this happened before. We just didn't know about it, but now we know about it because we know what to go back and look for. I'm assuming it doesn't make any sense, folks. It sounds like they're trying to cover stuff up. Now, what's the conspiracy? I don't know. I don't know what exactly they're trying to cover up. I can't figure it out. I just know this does not bode well for the tensions with Russia and China, the whole Ukraine thing going on. It seems like we could possibly be on the brink of another world war where you have several nations like China and Russia and a few others are coming together in a partnership here. And then, of course, you got the United States and NATO and the UK in a partnership on the other side. And that's kind of how these things start. We may already be in it and we just don't know it really kicked off yet. When you look at the history books and you look back and, oh, this war went on for 50 years. Well, the first 10 years, they probably didn't even really know it was going to be a war. It was just ramping up. And they look back in history and they go back and say, oh, well, this was the starting point of the war. But while they were living it in real life, they didn't really notice. So could we already be in quote unquote World War III? Who knows? I just know it's not good anytime you have to have a military shoot anything down. So what is going on? I don't know. But